So this is a test. We just want to make sure that everything's working. Could some of the wonderful people let us know that they're getting clear signal? Say something, Mama.
Good evening. How are you?
Dear friends who are watching, can you let us know that the signal came through clearly?
Hernan hears it, so we're okay.
You're on, so it's a few minutes early, but
So it's working?
yep.
Okay. Showtime in a couple of minutes. See you later.
No, it's on now, so.
Oh, so you can start.
There are wires.
Then I can welcome all of you.
There is a
Welcome.
wire that's showing.
We are professionals, but not in this.
Okay, Mama. You are
Okay.
good.
And Hernan came to help because the boys can't be here until later. Okay. Welcome all of you. And you can hear me, right? And Sandy, you're in the audience, and I have to thank you because you've been educating me. I could never find the comments, and you sent them to me last time. Thank you. Continue your great helping. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to begin. I'll begin as always with,
Okay, we still have 2 minutes before you officially start. Let me tell you that Stephen Schlussel says, good evening, Hedy. Marilu Bilgray de Rodriguez is watching.
I love it. I love it. Stephen, thank you that you're my neighbor because, boy, have you been helpful. Thank you.
And Christine Cox is watching.
Hello, Christine. I'm happy.
So this is your few minutes before you actually start.
I'm just being happy.
Marilu says, hi, Hedy.
Hi. Did you get all the information?
Meredith Romer is watching.
And I'm being quiet until you raise your hand.
Okay. We start in 1 minute. Tammy Smith says, hi, Hedy.
Hi.
Janine Schultz is watching.
Wonderful. An airplane is passing by, but this one is high.
And Ken and Greg and Jess are watching.
In the car,
I'm guessing.
the miracles of technology.
And Mary Lou is saying, yes, she did. And Janine is saying, hi, Hedy, I love you.
I love you too. Now, I'm not official yet, right?
And
I'm official. Okay. Hello, all of you. I love you, and I love your being here. And I'll begin. I'll begin as always with something about a drawing of somebody who has disabilities. And I need to say something about this. I have learned more about coping in life from knowing people who have special needs, disabilities, whatever word you want to do, because they use a part of the brain which most of us don't bother with. And they come up with ideas. I have thought to myself so often, go away. Go, 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 go. It's going. And I so often, when I'm doing something unsurmountable, I think of what would they do. And I keep one in my mind more than anything else. I saw on television a man who had only one leg, and he was skiing over those orange poles, those tubes, and he went around them, and he had only one leg on which there was a ski. And I thought, then there isn't anything that some people cannot overcome. Okay? So let me take back the picture, because thank you, because I have so much that I want to talk about. I would like to deal, as I had promised I would deal about prisons, but I had also wanted to speak to teachers. Pat, who first said I should go on Facebook, is a teacher, and I would like to speak about teachers who have surmounted difficulties as all of you have to surmount now. It is terrible not to be near the children. It is so difficult for the teachers I know to prepare plans and teaching virtually and no child to look at. People ask me why I draw and how did I begin. All children draw. Give them a crayon and you'll see what happens. And if they can't use it with their fingers, they'll put it between their toes. But there's something in need in human beings to make a mark. My teacher, let me just thank you. My teacher in Vienna, whom I had first, second, and third grade, was called Frau Lehrerin Vogel, which means Lady Teacher Vogel. And she didn't let homework be a problem because there was such a preparation. If I told you this before, I think this is the time to tell it again. We would take a pin and measure with a ruler 1 inch into the 4 corners of the page. And then we would take out our favorite colored pencil and draw a line from indentation to indentation. And in that case, we ended up having a frame of a color that we chose. And then we had to write the first line, whatever the homework was. 1 and 1 equals 2. And then when it was perfectly done, she would check it. After that, we could take out our colored pencils and scribble or draw anything in the line underneath, in the area. There's space for one line. So homework was a joy because you got to choose colored pencils. And it was then that I learned a joy. Maybe it came from other things, but I know that to sit in a classroom where every day there is that kind of excitement is amazing. And then when I began to work as a volunteer in the prison system, I taught people how to draw, and I created a joy because I know you don't learn unless there is joy involved. And I think perhaps this will help you as you cannot be near the children. Then a friend of mine, a very close relative actually, who teaches children in the lower grades, she's a principal, and she said to me once, I said, how is teaching? That was before the virus. And she said, the magic seems to be gone for the children. It's very hard to teach children who don't believe in magic. And I said, explain that to me. And she said, parents don't read to children anymore. Parents are sitting with their cell phones. Books are disappearing in children's lives. And it made me realize books have disappeared in adult lives too. You can get them free. Every library and also the train stations have shelves with books that you can just take. if in some way you could begin to teach virtually a book, perhaps if you would read a book, an exciting book. I'm just giving out thoughts to make children learn, because children are bored. If I move my hand, it's because the boys are here. Jesse just walked in. Oh, that's wonderful.
Tammy is quoting you, saying you don't learn unless there's joy involved. Hedy
Right.
wisdom.
Right. Okay, which is very important in life. Yay, Greg. The family is coming. Let me go to the other parts that I need to say. The greatest amount of learning that I ever made, hi Kenny, gone are the days of hugging somebody. We do virtual movements. And I'm excited now because they're all here. So let me go back to where I was and talk, because I said I would speak about the prison system. Well, I have to tell you about Mickey Burglass. When I was teaching drawing in the Nassau County Jail, suddenly the clientele disappeared that I loved. It used to be women, it was in the women's section, but that's a motorcycle. The other one was an airplane. Ignore them, okay? But what I remember was that when I was teaching poor women, mostly women of color, I loved teaching because they were so eager to learn. And suddenly a new population came in. They seemed to be all white and young, and they were all drug abusers. And now that we have an epidemic, I'm aware of the fact this is not the first epidemic. Drug abuse was the most serious epidemic that I ever remembered. And suddenly I was getting so many kids who had everything in life but took drugs. Now I have to look at you instead of looking at the family. Okay, I'm looking at the camera, right? Okay, I'm not going to look at you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we deal with an epidemic? This one is different. I'm a carrier. It seems that every one of us, if we don't wear a mask, I have my mask with me, can infect everybody else. Everyone who uses drugs and passes the drug on to somebody else may cause an overdose. I think we have become our brother's keeper, and I'd like us to be very aware of that. So let me speak of Mickey Burglass. I called the Red Cross and I said, I'm going to stop teaching for you because I'm only getting drug abusers, and they're no fun. First of all, they're very boring. And second of all, they don't know how to work. They don't know how, when they make a mistake, to erase that mistake. So I'm quitting. And she said, no, please don't. I have something to tell you. Somebody's going to be speaking. Now, I forgot where. It was either the Ethical Culture Society, or it was a church, or I don't remember. But I'll never forget Mickey Burglass. Here is what happened. This young man walked in with dungarees. In those days, which is about 50 years ago, people did not wear dungarees when they were going to give a lecture. And his hair was tied in a ponytail. Men did not wear ponytails. I'm going back a long distance, approximately 50 years. And Mickey Burglass stood there, And he told us his story. He came from a very wealthy family, a white family in a southern town where very few people of power were anything but white. So he was used to, if he made a mistake, like a car accident, he would go to the judge, hand over the papers, the paper would be signed, and he would be free. But then he became too sure, and he began to embezzle. Embezzling means large amounts of money in that case, and he did end up in prison. But in prison he had power, because all the guards were very nice to him. And he felt powerful. And one day, he saw people grabbing a handicapped man, putting him into his wheelchair, and begin to shove him towards the bathroom, and they had turned on the hot shower. And when he saw that, he went like this when he was speaking, and then he pulled back and he said he suddenly realized in this place, if he tried to interfere, he would end up in the shower. And at that moment he realized he had no power. And that the moment you end up in prison, you have no power. Well, it just so happened he was a brilliant man. He ended up going to divinity school, and he learned how to teach people about power. And he was teaching me and other people how to teach about power in prison. And I do that. And I find out that I have to teach myself power. If you have no power, as we do now, because remember, we're carriers of COVID, all of us, which is why we wear masks. And because we have no power, we have to learn. How much time do I have?
16 minutes.
Good. Because this has been the biggest learning period of my life. And I can answer Greg's question of last time of how come I get resemblances so easily now. Because I have learned from Mickey Burglass, you must never judge. The moment you judge, you've lost. So all these years of teaching, I was teaching people how not to judge. And I suddenly found out that when I do portraits, I judge. Because I know these people. And so I think of how to do what I feel who I feel they are. This virus gave me so much thinking time. It's not that I've become more intelligent. I've become less stupid. Which means I no longer judge. And if I sit down to draw you, and I get involved in speaking of other things, and remember who you are, then I will try to draw that person and never really get to know you. So I need to make all of us understand this is your learning time. You've never had a world where you are dangerous. Now you are. Or why your closest people are dangerous. Learn. Become different. Really listen to people. Listen to who they are. If they tell you don't wear a mask, it's because they don't give a care if you die or not. Begin to care. Begin to care that other people live, not just you. Remember, you have become a carrier. Remember, the innocent person you were is gone. Don't listen to the people who tell you not to wear a mask. Don't listen to things you don't understand. Don't listen to people who say there will be a medication very soon. How do you know that it's going to be a good one? Or that somebody's trying to make money and sell it? Wait until experiments have been done. I think at the moment I am more afraid of the wrong medications being created by somebody who needs to make money. Remember, the virus is one epidemic, but the medications, the opioids, were sold and given as cures, and those cures have addicted you. I know what addiction is. I am addicted to the internet. Lately, because of I guess, the global warming, the everything, my internet very seldom works correctly. More will happen. Don't be addicted like I am. I'm going to learn how to live without the things that may disappear tomorrow. How much time do I have?
12 minutes.
Okay. Then what I do have to say something which worries me very much. And that is, I love Facebook because it allows me to speak to you. But it gives me such guilt. People write to me on Messenger, and in order to answer you, I would have to get another of those horrible things which can be inactive whenever there's a storm. Messenger. I don't need another machine. And some of those are written from different countries. I would love to learn more about them. I would love to learn about you. But to do it, I would have to sacrifice my life because I don't have time. In the paintings I've done, well, take one painting, for example, the one on the edge of the park. I have 400 resemblances in there. It took me more than 2 years to do that painting, but I knew every one of those people. People still write to me for my paintings. I have no time. I have no time to answer anybody on Facebook. I'm 91 years old. I intend to live to 100. That gives me time to do a few more paintings. Okay?
So I have a question from your son.
Yes.
Judging is so easy to do. When you find yourself judging, what do you do to get out of that mode?
I think of Mickey Burglass, and I realize, Hedy, you're losing, you're forgetting, you're not learning. The moment you judge, your learning stops. Does anybody have another question?
I have a question for you. How do you keep your sense of joy and freshness?
I decide that nothing is going to take away the joy, which is very difficult today when my internet does not work. It's up to me. It's up to me. Because I remember reading a long time ago, pain comes whether you want it or not, but joy you have to create.
Do you remember the bumper sticker I gave you?
Yes, don't postpone joy. Yes, yes. Does anybody in the audience have a question? because I could answer you now, but I can't answer you on Messenger. Because I have to protect my life. And if it gets overloaded, then I can't. Then let me say I love you all. And let me say goodbye.
No, Grandma, it's early.
You still have 8 minutes.
I have
a question for you.
Okay.
I have a lot of questions for you.
Go ahead.
I'll put it in here.
When did you know you were an artist?
When I used colored pencils for Lenin Vogel's class. And if I do have a few more minutes, I want to thank the people in Vienna, because I'm going to be doing one program on the Neusiedlers. I did a little bit of that, but that's when Herbert had not yet been able to join Facebook, and I didn't want him to miss, because I owe so much to Vienna.
So Tammy Smith has a question. Tracy wants to know if you went back to the prisons after you were ready to quit.
Yes, I did. And it's been Sing Sing. Oh, let me talk about Sing Sing, Tracy, okay? Shall I, or do you need to ask me?
No, that's the question.
I asked you.
The question is,
Oh,
tell a
okay.
story from your counseling
Okay, I
time
would
at
love
Sing
to.
Sing.
I would
Someone
love
who
to.
really touched you.
I would love to. I was sitting, this was at Sing Sing, and a group of us used to go together, and, oh good, I still have 7 minutes, okay. A group of us would go together, and at night we would go to a diner and eat split pea soup, which was delicious, but my daughter makes a better one. At any rate, I was working with a man, and he said to me, could I have a session with Eric? And I said, not really, because we're tightly programmed. At Sing Sing, we were programmed. We had 8 sessions. And I said, we go consecutively, in step by step, until we reach the end. And I said, tell me why. Why do you need to speak to him? And he said, because I have to know what he did with the anchor. I know that he did time. And I said, how did you know? He said, well, he's got a German accent, and I know you're Jewish, so I figured it had to be concentration camp. And I have to know how somebody from concentration camp, how did he conquer anger? So when we went to eat our split pea soup, I said to everybody, Eric, you're going to have to go to somebody else next week and forget about your client, and told him. And he said, I don't know what he means about anger. I don't know what he's talking about. I'll have a session with him, but he has to tell me what he's talking about. So the next Monday night, Eric, how was it? Did you help him? And Eric said something I will never forget. He said, no, I couldn't help him. He helped me. He made me remember the poison I was carrying in me. I hated so much, and I had forgotten it. And that's something I never thought I could forget. I hated so much. I lost my first job. Can you hear me over the airplane? Yeah. I lost my first job because I hit the foreman and got fired. Somebody in the diner, I had no money, so I always used to buy mashed potatoes, and then they would give me gravy for free. And that was always my meal. And he said, hey buddy, give me $1. So I went into my pocket and I was able to give him $0.25. And he pushed me and said, hey buddy, I asked for $1. Well, the next thing he knew, he was on the floor and I was on the floor, and they threw us out. And I knew this rage that I carried was against anybody I met. And what happened was, I worked on it so hard. I worked and I worked. Whenever that rage would come, I would pull it out of my mouth. The airplanes. I would pull it out of my mouth, and years later, he said the same thing to friends who asked him how he got rid of that rage. And he said, if I would not have gotten rid of it, it would have killed me. Well, let me just tell you that Eric was so good when we counseled. Later on, we used to counsel at the Fortune Society, which was different because we never knew whether they would be released or not, or whether they would come or not. In Sing Sing, we knew they had to be there because we were better than the prison cell. But what happened, Eric could counsel like nobody else because people sensed in the prisons that he had this rage and that he conquered it. There's so many airplanes. Does that mean, well, they're not dropping bombs. So, but they keep coming.
It means the world is opening up again.
Yeah, but does it have to be over our backyard?
Julie Williams says, can you promise to keep doing these Monday nights until you get to 100? And send
Oh,
you kisses?
definitely. And there's a friend who asked me who's much younger, and she said, but I'll be too young when you're 100. Could you make it be 101? So, Julie, for you, I would do anything. Julie is one of the most wonderful people, but she's also a great writer, and she is having me nag her to write. Julie, please start writing again.
So one last question. Why does using oil paints bring you the most joy?
Because you're allowed to make a mess. And then you wash up later on. But also oil speaks for itself. When you blend the colors, that doesn't mean they'll come out the way you want them. And you keep learning. In this 1 minute, let me just say, I would love to show you how I paint in oil, but you see, it would look terrible for so long. But I am doing an oil right now, and I could do this. I could show you the process. I'm just about halfway done. So it's sort of late, but I promise you, I will do another oil from the beginning. But I am waiting for the main thing that I worry about, and that is that my country is separating families. And this painting is going to be here until somebody in my government says to the families, I don't know if we can bring in so many people, but I will not separate you anymore. Because, can I put in 1 more minute? Okay. Because look at your children. How would you feel if somebody with a government-approved label saying ICE grabs your child and puts it into an institution, and you will never know where it goes because they don't take your name or address? Goodbye. I love you all.